I suddenly realized my wife had rehearsed this betrayal, and she chose our son's graduation party as her stage. The music was still playing when she stood up. Her champagne flute shimmered in the lights, and for a split second, I thought she was about to make a toast. Instead, she cleared her throat, looked straight at me, and said, "I'm leaving Nicholas. I've met someone else." The silence dropped like a hammer. Plates clinked. Glasses froze midair. Marco, our son, blinked twice as if he'd misheard. Guests glanced at each other, unsure if this was part of a strange joke. She didn't flinch. 25 years together. 25 years collapsed in under 25 seconds. And still, I didn't move. My hands were steady. My smile didn't twitch. I nodded once like I'd expected it, because I had. She mistook my calm for shock. Most did. She thought she'd pierced me clean through, like some theatrical sword through the chest. But I'd been bleeding in silence for months. My voice cut through the hush. "Thank you for your honesty, Ellen." She blinked. That wasn't the reaction she rehearsed. I stepped around the table, reached into my blazer pocket, and pulled out a white envelope. Thick, heavy, sealed with a neat red wax stamp. I held it out to her like a parting gift. "What's this?" she asked. "A mirror," I said. The guests shifted. Phones were already out, pretending to film the cake, but really catching every tremor in her face. She didn't open the envelope right away. She just stared at it like it might explode. Then I turned to Marco. "Son, this day is yours. Nothing will change that. I'm proud of you." His lips parted. "Dad." I put a hand on his shoulder. "Later. We'll talk." And then, without a raised voice, without a single curse or broken glass, I walked out of the garden and into the quiet night. I heard her say my name behind me once. Not a plea, just confusion. I didn't stop. I began to think, when did it all begin to fall apart? It wasn't one moment. It was hundreds, quiet ones, missed dinners, eyes that didn't meet across the room. But if I had to name the first crack, it was the Italy trip, 2 years ago. We were supposed to celebrate our anniversary in Florence, but she canceled last minute, claimed a work emergency. I believed her. Back then, I still believed a lot of things. Now I was sitting in my car, engine off, hands on the wheel. The party was still going on behind me. Laughter forced itself back up like a stubborn flame. But for me, the music had stopped days ago. I watched her change before I ever saw the proof, how she began locking her phone, how she started going to conferences alone, how she wore perfume to yoga, and how she'd stopped saying goodnight. Still, I waited. I waited until the facts lined up like dominoes, until I didn't need suspicion. I had evidence. The texts came first, a message that pinged her iPad while she was showering. "Can't wait to have you to myself this weekend. No more pretending." She said it was a client, a joke. She laughed. I didn't. I didn't confront her that night. I smiled. I kissed her cheek. I made us tea, and I logged into our shared financial accounts while she slept. That's when the real picture started to form. There were transfers, small at first, a few hundred here, 1,000 there, to an account I didn't recognize, hidden under a shell company registered in Delaware. She thought I wouldn't notice. She forgot who I was. The man who helped billionaires hide assets for fun. Every week after that, I added a new piece to the file: photos, bank records, texts, voice notes, her calendar, her sudden girls' weekends that matched his location tags on social media. His name was Daniel Monroe, associate creative director at her firm, 10 years younger, abs and ambition. The kind of man who wore sunglasses indoors and quoted meditation apps. I studied him for 3 weeks before I hated him. Before that, he was just a variable in a larger equation. I wasn't jealous. I was calculating. I even met him once, at a charity event. He shook my hand and looked past me, like I was just the husband she hadn't shed yet. That's when I knew. They weren't just sneaking around. They were building an exit. She'd planned it all. The affair, the money transfers, the timing, right before Marco left for college, clean break, public sympathy, the story she'd spin. She tried. I was distant. We grew apart. She rehearsed it. But she didn't know about the prenup. She forgot that I'd added an infidelity clause 5 years into the marriage, after a client's brutal divorce taught me what love without legal prep could cost. She didn't know I'd hired a private investigator, that I'd already filed, that the envelope she held now contained divorce papers, asset freezes, and a forensic report on every dollar she'd tried to hide. I watched her through the tinted windshield, still standing by the cake, envelope unopened, smiling too wide. People clapped awkwardly. Someone said, "What just happened?" She shook her head like she was the one betrayed, like I'd ruined her performance. That's the thing about actors. They hate when the script changes. I looked at myself in the mirror. My tie was still straight, my cuffs clean, no cracks. But inside? Inside, I was splitting open. Quietly, not from pain, from clarity. She'd planned an ending, but I was just starting. The next morning, I was at the bank by 9:02. The manager greeted me like an old friend, not knowing I'd come to kill something. "I need to freeze all joint accounts," I said, "effective immediately." She blinked. "Is there a specific reason, Mr. Gray?" "Yes." I slid her a printed court order. Already signed. Already filed. Everything I'd set in motion had quietly clicked into place while Ellen was busy planning her grand announcement. Lawyers, forensic analysts, digital security consultants. I had built a quiet fortress while she rehearsed betrayal in hotel rooms. The manager processed the request with shaking hands. "This might take a moment. I've got time." Outside the window, the city moved on as if nothing had broken. I sat still, watching lives that weren't mine anymore. Husbands holding coffee trays, wives scrolling through phones, students laughing in clumps, innocent people or liars who hadn't been caught yet. My phone buzzed. "Ellen, we need to talk." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the encrypted app my lawyer had set up. There were new uploads, screenshots of Ellen texting Daniel. Said Ellen, "I think he suspects something." "Daniel, let him. He's too passive to do anything." Passive. That word stuck to my throat like ash. I thought of all the times I stayed quiet to keep the peace. All the birthdays I planned, the doctor appointments I managed, the sacrifices I made to help her career bloom. And now I was passive. My next stop was the office of Amanda Klein, my attorney. 43 years old, sharp as glass, zero patience for bullshit. She'd handled 3 high-profile divorces that ended in complete asset transfers to her clients. I didn't need kindness. I needed precision. "Your wife just tried to move 20 grand to a private brokerage in the Caymans," she said without looking up from her screen. It bounced. "Good. You're sure about pressing the infidelity clause?" I met her eyes. "Use everything." She nodded. "Then let's ruin her exit plan." By noon, Ellen had lost access to every joint account. The credit cards declined at a salon in Midtown. The notifications came to my phone like applause. My only call that day was to Marco. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, kid, you okay?" He was quiet. "What happened last night?" I paused, then, "Your mother and I are separating. She said it was mutual. Do you believe that?" Another pause. "No." "Good. Can I stay with you for a while?" His voice cracked slightly on the last word. That was the first time I almost cried. "Of course, son. My door is always open." That night I sat in my apartment, a temporary 1-bedroom I'd rented months ago in preparation. It was minimalist, clean, empty, like a blank sheet waiting for a better story. I took out the thick manila folder I'd built piece by piece over the last 100 days. Every transfer, every message, every hotel receipt, my own private museum of betrayal. I laid the documents on the floor like puzzle pieces. This wasn't just a response to her lie, it was the rebirth of my truth. I didn't need revenge. I needed clarity. I needed to know who I had become after loving someone who never planned to stay. That night, I slept better than I had in years. No wife, no mask. Just silence. The kind that heals. The hearing was set for Monday morning. Rain hammered the courthouse steps like a warning. I arrived 10 minutes early, briefcase in hand, tie sharp. Amanda met me at the base of the stairs. "She's bringing him," she said. "Daniel." "Perfect," I said. Inside, the walls were sterile, the air stale. Divorce court wasn't made for theatrics, just for facts. But Ellen still arrived like it was a premiere. She wore a cream coat, heels that clicked with purpose, and a smile rehearsed a dozen times. Daniel followed 2 steps behind. No tie. Tan too deep for June. He looked around like he was scouting for cameras. We didn't speak. She didn't look at me. Until the judge entered. Names were read, motions acknowledged. And then, without ceremony, Amanda stood and handed over the folder. "Your Honor, we invoke Clause 12C of the prenuptial agreement. Grounds: repeated infidelity and financial concealment." Ellen's head snapped toward Amanda. "What?" Daniel touched her arm. She pulled away. The judge opened the file, his brow furrowed deeper with every page. Photos, transfers, messages, dates, hotels, everything. "Mrs. Gray," he said slowly, "would you like to respond?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. "I didn't. This is private." The judge raised a hand. "The evidence is admissible and extensive. We will proceed." Daniel leaned toward her, whispered something. She nodded sharply. Then he stood and left the courtroom. No goodbye, no glance back. Just gone. Ellen watched him walk out, her mouth half open, her hand limp. The room was quiet, just paper turning and futures collapsing. After that, the session moved fast. Our assets were split as outlined, but due to the infidelity clause, her share shrank to almost nothing. The Cayman transfers were noted, her attempts to hide funds cited. The ruling was clear. She lost the apartment, the cars, the savings. She asked for the beach house. I said no. The judge agreed. When it ended, I stood, packed my briefcase. Ellen finally turned to me. Her voice was hoarse. "You planned this." "Yes. You wanted to humiliate me." I wanted to end it without lies." Her eyes were wild. "I gave you 25 years. And took the last 5. She stepped closer. "He loved me. Then where is he?" That broke her. Not visibly, no tears. But something inside slumped. The kind of collapse no one else sees. She left the courtroom alone. I stepped out into the rain, let it hit me full in the face. I didn't run, didn't shield myself. I let it soak the years off. Amanda appeared beside me. "You handled that with restraint." "It wasn't restraint," I said. "It was survival." "Most men lose their minds in that room. You rebuilt yours." I nodded. Now I rebuild everything else. I took the long way home that night. Walked past old places, the bookstore Ellen used to love, the corner cafe where we had our first fight, the bench where Marco told us he wanted to be a filmmaker, not a lawyer. Memories came and went. I didn't chase them. But when I reached my apartment, I saw the message on my phone. From Marco. "Proud of you, Dad." 4 words. They hit harder than any verdict. Still soaked, I stepped inside and closed the door. My old life had ended with applause I never heard. And this silence? This was the sound of beginning again. 2 weeks later, I sat across from a man who used to be a client. Martin Albrecht, hedge fund veteran, ruthless negotiator. now retired, bored, and dangerously observant. "So," he said, swirling his espresso, "you burned the house down and walked out with the blueprints." Something like that. Why not just disappear? Most men would. I met his gaze. Because I'm not most men anymore. He studied me. "What are you building, Nicholas?" "A firm." His eyebrows rose. "Not back to the grind?" "Number something different. Niche, strategic financial consulting, for people going through high-asset divorces." Martin sat back. "You're turning your hell into a business model." "I'm turning my experience into armor. For others." He didn't laugh. He didn't scoff. He reached into his coat and pulled out a card. "Call this number. It's my nephew. Divorce turned him inside out. Could use someone who's been in the fire." That was my first referral. By the end of the week, I had 4. I named it Gray Ledger. Quiet, precise. My name, repurposed. I registered the LLC, hired a discreet office manager, and rented a small suite downtown. Nothing flashy, but clean, honest. Every piece felt like redemption. Meanwhile, Ellen's world crumbled louder than I expected. Daniel Monroe vanished. Quit his job, deleted socials, and ghosted everyone. Rumors flew, misused company funds, harassment complaints, travel with clients' money. He'd been circling disaster long before he met Ellen. She moved into a condo her sister owned, sold the car, tried to freelance, but the agency crowd turned fast. One scandal is all it takes. And the whispers didn't stop. I didn't gloat. I didn't call. But Marco told me she cried a lot now. "Do you hate her?" he asked one night over dinner. I put down my fork. "No. But she's already living in the consequence. I don't need to add to it." He nodded slowly. "You're different now." "I know." That was the second best thing he ever said to me. The first came a week later, at the launch of my firm. We didn't throw a party, no ribbon cutting, just a clean website, a press release in the right publication, and a single photo. Me in a dark suit, no tie, looking directly into the lens. The headline, "From Betrayal to Blueprint: How Nicholas Gray is Helping Others Navigate the Fallout of Divorce." Marco posted it on his feed. Caption: "This man rebuilt his life and taught me how to build mine." Hundreds of likes, dozens of messages. But I didn't read them all. I was already focused on the next client, a woman in her 50s, blindsided by her husband's affair with their nanny. She cried in the first meeting, then asked if I believed she could survive it. I looked her in the eye. "You won't just survive," I said. "You'll redefine." Helping others was never the dream, but maybe this version of me, rebuilt from silence and fire, was what I'd needed all along. Not revenge, not erasure, just truth. Lived out loud. Friday evening. Networking mixer at the Commonwealth Club, suits, light jazz, bourbon on ice. The kind of room where people smile too wide and say, "We should definitely connect," with no intention of following through. But I wasn't here to be liked. I was here to be known. "Is that Gray?" someone murmured behind me. "The guy from that article?" I didn't turn. Instead, I sipped my drink and watched the room like a strategist at war. I'd brought a silent ally tonight, Jordan Wexler, my first junior partner. Late 30s, sharp mind, recent divorcee with a chip on his shoulder and a background in forensic accounting. We made eye contact across the bar. He nodded once. Phase 1 was underway. He was speaking to a woman named Lillian Tran, 44, real estate lawyer, recently blindsided by her husband's midlife awakening and a secret apartment in Tribeca. Jordan listened, asked 2 questions, and handed her a card. Our approach was simple. We didn't sell hope. We mapped exits. "Someone's noticed you," he said later, joining me at the edge of the lounge. I followed his gaze. A man in a blue linen suit, gray beard, champagne in hand, flanked by two colleagues. Barry Langstrom, partner at Pennington Rowe, top-tier divorce firm, old money loyalist, hates disruptors. "He's been watching us all night," Jordan said. "Let him." "He's pissed." "Good." Langstrom finally walked over. No smile. "Gray," he said, "heard you're making waves." "Waves are cleaner than trenches." He chuckled once. "You're poaching clients." "I'm offering direction. You offered delay." He sipped. "Careful, you're making enemies." I leaned in. "I used to be careful. That's how I got betrayed in plain sight." He didn't respond, just walked away. Jordan exhaled. "You sure we want that war?" "We're not at war," I said. "We're just not asleep anymore." Later that night, we returned to the office. Clean lighting, glass walls, no distractions. Lillian had already filled out the intake form. 3 new inquiries waited on the server. I opened one. A man in his 60s, blindsided by a secret second family. "We're growing fast," Jordan said. "We're solving pain." Then the alert buzzed. A flagged message from Ellen's lawyer. She was petitioning to renegotiate spousal support, claiming emotional distress and reputational damage. Jordan looked at me. "You want me to handle it?" I stared at the screen. For a moment, the rage tried to rise again, but it didn't reach the surface. "No," I said. "Let her file. Let the court decide." "You're sure?" "Yes, I'm building forward, not circling the wreckage." He nodded. Respect. When he left, I sat in the quiet, watching the skyline darken outside. Buildings blinked into night mode. Somewhere, someone was telling their child they weren't coming home. Somewhere, someone was waking up to the first lie. I opened a drawer. Inside, the envelope. The same one I'd handed her at the party. I hadn't thrown it out. Not as a trophy, as a reminder of what it costs to pretend everything is fine. At exactly midnight, Marco texted. Marco. "Mom called me tonight." Me. "How was it?" Marco. "Strange. She asked if you're seeing anyone." I stared at the message and typed. Me. "Tell her I'm married to the truth now." I put the phone down, switched off the light. Gray Ledger was just a name. But what I'd built inside it was freedom, weaponized. It happened at a panel discussion. Topic: Financial Recovery After Divorce. Hosted by a prestigious legal collective. I was invited last minute. Someone had dropped out, and apparently I'd become a name people whispered with interest or caution. I almost declined, but something in me said, "Show up. Let them see asterisk." I wore a dark suit, no tie, same as the photo Marco had shared. Jordan sat in the front row, eyes sharp, recording everything in his head. The panel included 3 attorneys, 1 therapist, and me, the financial strategist turned survivor. The room was full. Over 100 people. A mix of professionals and those who hadn't yet admitted to themselves why they were really there. I spoke last. "Divorce doesn't destroy you," I said. "Lying to yourself does." Somewhere near the back I saw her. Ellen. Hair pulled back, dress too formal for the event, sitting alone, watching me like she didn't recognize the man holding the microphone. I didn't flinch. I walked them through a real case, anonymized, of course. A woman who'd spent 18 years covering her husband's tracks, only to be left for a junior associate. The patterns, the gaslighting, the slow erosion of identity. Then, the plan we built together. The bank freezes, the asset tracing, the power reclaimed. She didn't want revenge, I said. She wanted to remember who she was before she made herself small. The room was dead silent. After the panel, people came up. Handshakes, questions, quiet confessions. I answered each one. Gave out cards. heard fragments of stories too familiar to ignore. Ellen didn't approach. She hovered by the exit, waiting. I let her wait. When the room had thinned, I finally walked over. She looked up. "You were good. I wasn't performing." She hesitated. "You changed." "No," I said. "I just stopped hiding." She glanced at my hand. No ring. "Are you with someone?" I smiled slightly. "With myself. For once." She nodded, jaw tight. "Daniel never... He wasn't who I thought." "I know." She opened her mouth to say more. Closed it. "Marco says you're helping people." "I'm helping myself by doing it." Silence. Then she stepped aside, quietly. "Goodbye, Nicholas." This time, I didn't look back. Outside, the night air was clean, the sky sharp and open. A group of attendees walked past, laughing. Someone said my name. I waved. But I wasn't theirs. I was mine. As I walked to the car, Jordan caught up to me. "She came," he said. "I saw." "You okay?" I paused. Looked at the stars above the city glow. For the first time, they didn't look cold. "I'm not looking for okay," I said. "I'm looking forward." And we walked into the dark. She stood at the door like she'd forgotten why she came, empty bag in hand, nothing on her face. I closed the door and didn't look back.